This episode is brought to you by Oh Hello Media. Oh Hello Media is the nation's leading visual storytellers of brand experiences. They utilize creative storytelling to empower brands with meaningful photography, videography, and video post-production that elicits emotion to create a lasting and memorable impression between your target audience and your brand. Not only do they have team members in every city across the country, their turnkey operational solution saves clients an average of 10 hours of project management. 10 hours! To learn more about Oh Hello Media services and how they're leveling up their clients' visuals, please visit their website at www.ohhellomedia.com. Again, that's www.ohhellomedia.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, Confessions of a Creative Director, the original podcast made by a creative director for creative directors, for aspiring creative directors, for creatives of all types looking to up their game. This is your podcast, and I am your host, Jaime Cabrera. Today's show is a Mastercast with legendary commercial and film director Jordan Brady. Jordan's going to share best practices for creative directors working alongside commercial directors, some do's and don'ts, all kinds of great information, even some information from his book. We're also going to learn a little bit about his past life as a stand-up comic and as a host on an MTV game show. So without further ado, let's get into it with Jordan Brady.
Jordan Brady, the truest of the true gentlemen. How are you?
Jaime, I am fabulous, and I am so tickled to be on your show. And just let's get out of the way. I'm a fan.
Wow, he's got
the book, and look, it's earmarked, and the cover's bent.
Wow,
screw in it.
Is that me? Is that a picture
you.
of me?
Yes,
wow,
that is you.
Wow, I did not expect that. I am tickled. That makes, you just made my whole week, whole month. Thank you so much.
Page 68. Set a timer and spend the allotted time discussing and debating a prompt or question. Like, that's good for anybody in a creative field.
Wow.
I love the disciplines. I think, and I tell filmmakers, you have to listen to Jaime's podcast because it's like you're getting inside the brain of the people you pitch. I think this is a wonderful resource.
I love it. Thank you so much. You that caught me off guard, but in a good way. I feel I feel very flattered. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining the podcast. I'm excited to speak to you because I think that you're gonna have a lot of useful information for the audience. But before we get into that, I've got some questions. I have some questions that I need answered. And obviously, I just took to your content because you are hilarious. Your approach is so funny, and I love how you've made, you star in your own content, and they're very educational, but they're done in a way that's very easy to understand. Right? I think the first one I saw was you were doing something kind of educating the audience about a reverse shot or something, and it was you playing both characters. Super funny, and I just thought that is the way that you show somebody very quickly what that means, right? And I just thought you were just sort of a funny human being, right? And you're a commercial director, so that's not unusual. But then as I was doing my research here, I discovered some interesting notes here that you are a former stand-up comedian. You had a game show on MTV.
I've had a storied past.
You do have, and this one just got me because who hasn't used the expression Bow-Chicka-Bow-Wow? And according to this article, and I'm going to take it for truth because it's on the internet, is you coined that phrase. Can you confirm or deny?
I can 100% confirm that I've never made a penny since the early 90s off that phrase. But I can also confirm that that was my signature bit. That was my hot pocket, get her done, Whatever, who name a comedian with a catchphrase. That was my thing. And it's substantiated by old clips. Like if you watched an evening at the Improv, which is on some weird site, I think the first time I did it on television was 1988.
Yeah.
Like George Bush Sr. was president, I think.
Yeah.
And I had toured the country doing comedy clubs as the boom swelled and more clubs were opening, and then a proliferation of brick-walled television shows, which were cheap as hell to produce.
Yeah.
We called it a gangbang. They would line up 30 comedians in a night. You'd each do 7 minutes, and at the end of the night, they had 8 episodes of a show.
Right.
And so I did Bow-Chicka-Bow-Wow on as many shows as I could. And, VH1, MTV, Half Hour Comedy Hour, Caroline's Comedy Hour, even at the Improv. There were just so many Showtime's Comedy Network, and that was my thing. And then I started hosting. In fact, that bit, doing at spring break for the MTV Half Hour Comedy Hour show, which was like a pretty cool one to do. I was on the bill with Martin Lawrence, who went on to do television and film.
Right.
And I got plucked from that and hosted a game show.
Yeah.
Which led to production and being on set all the time and doing 4 shows a day and looking at the crew, working with the crew, and falling in love with production.
And from what I could see, it was being around that environment that kind of set the light bulb aflame. You said, "Hey, I want to do that." And from my understanding, they said, "All right, well, before you start directing, you got to pay your dues, right? You got to produce some segments and do some smaller things before you sort of work your way up to the lead spot."
Correct. I hosted a couple of game shows, and some of them were like pilots, some were just like one-offs. But I did like the game show host circuit for a couple of years, and I ended up on a kids show at NBC, and I said, "Hey, let me direct." But I'd been shooting stuff with my video camera, shooting comedians that I worked with, during the day. Like, let's go around town and just you interview people, and I'll film it, and let's edit it. And so I had been practicing and honing my crude craft. And the NBC producer said, if you produce 6 segments of this show, this kids show, you can direct one. And that turned into like dozens of directing segments, and thank God, very little producing. Producing is the hardest thing.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, and so is this where you honed the director look of the sleeveless, the vest? Because I did notice that even back in the MTV days, because I make a joke that you may have seen where it's like the creative director, it's like you got to have the black frames, you got to have the V-neck T-shirt. I've noticed you have the vest, some sort of vest, maybe a puffy vest. Is that where you sort of adopted the?
Yeah, there was an article in Little Black Book, the online magazine that covers our industry, and there was. And Tara McCurs, the writer, and we spent a lot of time chatting. She interviewed me. I was so humbled. And at the last minute, she's like, "Hey, do you have a picture from what was the show?" And I said, "Name Your Adventure" with Mario Lopez and Tatiana Ali. She was on The Fresh Prince, and very big at the time. And they found the picture and put it in, and I'm wearing a vest. But Jaime, here's why: I started getting fat. No, and then Mario Lopez has these guns.
He still does.
He still does. He was like 19, and I'm now approaching 30. I'd had at least one child.
Yeah,
I'm putting on weight, and I'm in a T-shirt with these scrawny arms, starting to get a little belly. So I'm like, "Give me the vest."
I love it.
Next thing you know, I'll need a sports bra. Like, give me.
Well, you look very youthful, and I was trying to understand in my mind, because I was watching some of the stand-up clips. I couldn't quite get the timeline straight. Were you doing the stand-up first? Because in some ways in the stand-up you looked older, and then on the TV you looked very youthful. So I was like, wait a minute, which came first?
They were concurrent paths.
They were.
Yeah, I mean, we would film. The great thing about a game show is like you do 4 or 5 episodes in a day, and with a kids show, we did 13 episodes in a summer, and they reran them and diced them. So I would go do clubs and tell dirty jokes while I was filming the kid-friendly, rated G educational NBC show.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
You know what was really interesting was I started doing promos at MTV and Comedy Central because I hosted a Comedy Central. I did a stint on a show there, and like they would give me a box of tapes, and I would just go shoot promos.
Yeah, and
then I started pitching promos, and I'd write and direct a campaign and produce it. Made a small production company, and then a creative director that I had started stand-up with in the early 80s, Daniel Russ. You might have run across him in your days. He was working at GSD&M at the time, and he goes, promo's not a commercial. It's a whole different, it may be 30 seconds, but, the look isn't the same, the finesse of the finish, and the creative isn't the same. Like and my promos weren't clips of shows. They were original things. Like the one I'm most proud of, and I'm just reminded because I ran into him in the bathroom at the Directors Guild Awards. Ben Stiller had this show in the 90s called Ben Stiller Show.
Yeah.
And it won the Emmy posthumously, like after it was canceled. So Comedy Central bought the series. They bought 13 episodes. So I said, what if we get Ben Stiller, Gene Garofalo, Bob Odenkirk was on that show, and Andy Dick, and we put him in a graveyard, and Ben Stiller is in the grave digging up the tapes, the 3/4 inch tapes. And then he kink, and he pulls up an Emmy, tosses it. Yeah. Because they're digging up the show to sell it. Like Comedy Central bought the show. And I saw Ben Stiller. He's like, Jordan, because it's been, 30 years? Yeah. And he was so nice, by the way, so nice. And that to me was like, well, that's a commercial. Yeah. But I did use those to get opportunities when I was first starting to direct commercials, but they were different. They weren't. Yeah. They weren't as creatively. They didn't have the twist that I like when I see a good script. Right,
but probably a good training ground with probably a lot less scrutiny, right? Where you could experiment maybe a little bit more than you might have. If it was,
the network never sent anyone to set.
Yeah.
And they rarely had a note. It was like, great, it's 30 seconds. In fact,
good.
They gave me a show, a series. Comedy Central gave me a series. And you can edit this, right? If it's boring, raise your hand.
No, yeah.
So they said, it's called The Pipeline. They have to be exactly 2 minutes. Like, remember MTV had interstitial programming? It was like little bits. And they said, the executive, she goes, you take the comedians, because you know these people and you know how they think, and just profile them. So mix a little bit of stand-up, mix a little bit of interview, but we just don't want to see them in a club. And the first one was a young man named Dave Chappelle. I think he was like 22, 23 years old. Yeah. So I put him on the roof on Melrose Avenue in LA, on the roof of a thrift shop, had a crane. He talked about himself. Then he performed on the street, and we cut it. And like looking back, like it's black and white and color, and it's very trendy and Dutch angles and everything. But there was never a note. It was like, oh, it's 2 minutes. There's Dave Chappelle. Then the next one was Kathy Griffin, I believe Patton Oswalt, and we did 6. And I think it either won or was nominated for the coveted Cable Ace Award, which is like winning Best Chef at a Denny's. It's not like
that's not. It's not. We're not adding anything to the EGOT. We're not adding an extra A at the end of that. Yeah. Well, that's a good. This is a good segue. Speaking about getting notes, One of the other sort of first videos that I saw of yours was this great piece where you talked about a tip or a kind of a best practice that you employ when you're shooting, and as you're setting up your shot, as you're setting up your framing up your shot and getting all the scenic into place and everything, you turn off all the monitors because you don't want to necessarily start hearing nitpicky little things from people like, I don't know, agency people, agency creative directors like myself or the account person or whoever might be on set there. You turn them off until you're ready, you're camera ready, you fire them back on, and then you're open for notes and open to collaborate. And that got me to thinking, I love that note and I commented on it and how great it was. And that got me to thinking, we need to get Jordan on to give us some best practices as agency people, as agency creatives, on how to best work with, seasoned creative, commercial creative directors like you. And that's why we're here, because you're going to kind of share some tips, some do's and don'ts, some secrets.
Wow.
So
what a wonderful opportunity to either get more work or be shunned by people that hate these tips. I'll never work with that asshole. But let me clarify one thing.
But you also strike me as somebody who doesn't really care that much about that part, because I think then that's probably back to your comedian days, right? Where it's just like, hey, I'm just kind of letting it all hang out here and telling the truth. But
I got rhino skin, baby.
Yeah,
I got rhino skin. No dart can penetrate. But let me correct you on one thing.
Okay.
I don't turn all the monitors off.
Oh. Okay.
I only turn one off.
Oh, I thought it was all. Okay.
No. Okay.
That's the one that they can see, though.
Well, yeah. So here's the preamble.
Okay.
And everybody listening knows the drill. Like when you move on to a shot, the agency and the client approve the frame before you roll it with the actors or the hamburger or whatever. So by default, we're going to collaborate and make it what you want it to be. And I'm just a mere midwife for the creative, right? I'm bringing this to life. I'm helping you give birth to your spot. So I turn off the monitor in Video Village with the preamble, hey, esteemed agency and lovely client, I'm going to turn this monitor off. And I usually do this preamble at the pre-pro or the first shot. Hey, you'll notice the monitor's off. Feel free to walk around the set and look at the 7 or 8 monitors that are here. Hey, right over there, the video playback has a monitor. You can poke over her shoulder. The AC has one. The DP has a monitor behind mine. So walk around. Just don't get hurt. Don't trip on a cable. I hope you wore a sensible shoe. And look at the frame. But I ask you to withhold your comments and criticisms until we turn on the monitor live, this one right here, the big expensive one in Video Village. Gotcha. And I've even had a second smaller monitor right next to the one that's dark. So you can watch us make the sausage, but don't taste the soup until the chef says it's ready. And here's the reason why. Oh, I don't think we want the tricycle. Well, no, the prop master just set it down before he moves over here. Like they're going to fix the plant in the other corner, so they just dropped it. It happens to be in the shot.
Right.
But if they go, oh, we don't like the tricycle, and then the agency producer tells the AD, we're going to lose the tricycle. And then
it sets off a whole,
It sets off, it triggers a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And and that actually happened with me with a bicycle. We had a bike rack outside of the Hero store that we couldn't move.
Yeah.
And I go, if you put a bike there, it looks like it's a bike rack because we can't unbolt it. It's in the ground. And somebody had said, I don't know if I like the bike there. And I turn around, the bike's gone. I say to the prop master, where'd the bike go? Oh, they said take it away. And I'm like, well, me is now not even a part of that conversation.
Right.
And to your point, do I give a flying rat's ass at the end of the day if the bike is there or not? I mean, a little bit, right? Like, yes, it's in the storyboard. We talked about it. We chose a bike between 3 options in the prep. So just allow me to go, ta-da! And I try to make a big deal out of it for fun, right? Like Stu is my longtime VTR guy. Stu, we're going live. Let's go live, Stu. And then we turn it on, and I'm there in the village. And built into the schedule is time for you, the creative team, to react.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, we got to hurry up and go. That's not allowed. That would be a dick move on my part. If it's like, okay, you guys like it because we got to hurry.
Yeah.
So that's the thinking behind going dark, is it helps you comment on a presented finished frame.
I love it. Okay. So that's one. What else? What else you got here?
Well, I'm old school, and I have been doing commercials almost exclusively outside of my side projects for 23, 25 years.
Over in that article that I read, it said over 1,300. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and that doesn't count cut downs.
Wow.
If the 15 is pulled out of the 30, we don't count that.
Right.
And I'm fortunate that I do volume, like I can do 3 comedy dialogue spots in a day. So I'll get a campaign that's modestly priced and get comedy out of it.
Right.
So that number is actual, it's pretty accurate. And then lately the 6-second spot I make.
Oh my God.
6-second spot. So you do 9 of those in a day. That counts towards my number.
Absolutely. Put them in there. Yeah.
So the other one is like, okay, and I know some creatives love to hang out at the director's monitor. I think it's more efficient if you do not. And sometimes agency creatives, because I hear this, they just don't want to be with the client. So I will set up, or there's a young writer who maybe doesn't have the soft skills to be around the client, right?
Right. Yeah. So they send them over there. Yeah.
They send them to me, and I would prefer that he, she, or they have their own monitor 7 feet away.
Right.
Right. I joke that there are some teams I've worked with for years. I have a baby Bjorn. They can ride around with me and just look back and comment. But I know people, creative directors or the agency producer will say, like, it wasn't my gig, but I had a director at a shop I owned, and they were like, it's pharma. The creatives like to be with the director. They like to sit with the director. They like to do it. And if I were told that ahead of time, and I said, okay, cool, then I know the rules.
Right.
So that's okay. But talking during the take, don't talk during the take. Because you're talking and then I can't hear. And then the actors wonder, is this okay? Like the actor wants the director to talk one-on-one, give the notes, and the actors always go, did you get what you want?
Yeah.
And if someone's talking in my ear, whether it's the agency, the AD, the producer trying to whisper, it's like, oh my God, respect the process. Let's call action and cut, and then I'll come get notes.
Yeah.
So when you hang out at the monitor, I think it's slower because you inevitably the creatives, and you're not a monolith, right? There's different personalities, but
sure.
Talk like going, oh, I don't like the way she should do that again. What if we try this alt line? And I'm like trying to focus here. I'm looking at the shot and the performance. It's just, to me, it's not as efficient.
Yeah. And it probably also hinders you from talking with your own folks because you may be spitballing some things with your own team, right? And I would imagine that it's hard to have a conversation when you know somebody's standing there, and then you may throw out something that they latch on to, and they're like, "Ooh, I don't like that. I'm going to go tell somebody."
Right.
And that may have been a throwaway comment, or you were just spitballing, and now that somebody comes in and is asking you, "So are you putting the bike back in?" And you're like, "No," or "I was just," right? And just kind of like, so it probably hinders you from having a candid conversation with whoever you need to talk to from your side of the crew without somebody sort of hovering and
yes.
Yeah.
And the onus I feel is on the director to establish the way she works at the pre-pro, which is where you meet the client usually for the first time.
Yeah.
So to your point about like working or workshopping with an actor or the crew, I will say at the pre-pro, hey, tomorrow I might not be as funny as I am because I'm professionally funny. And because I got to be a taskmaster at some point. We got to get through the day, and I take this seriously. And two, the first couple of takes are probably going to suck.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for the creatives to know that doesn't mean the whole thing is going to derail. It means the actor's got to get up to speed. Maybe my lens choice on paper or previs was great, but we need to tighten it up a little bit. Maybe the blocking with real people is going to be different than we imagined.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So give me the first 2-3 takes, and then it's going to be fabulous. Because in the village, you're going to go, this is going to suck. This is horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm at my monitor going, this is horrible. Oh my God.
Right.
But sometimes I'll add to that. Sometimes directors will give the actor something to do to get them out of their head. That has nothing to do, like, flirt with him, flirt with the mechanic.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's wrong. She shouldn't be flirting. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get the actor to let go.
Right. Yeah. You're giving them some business to do to kind of get them, either it's part of it or you're just trying to get them out of their heads in some other way.
Director-actor relationship trick.
Yeah. So, how do people react to this little pre-pro talk that you have? Because again, like you said, right, maybe I'm not gonna be as funny tomorrow, but you're still funny that day because you're doing the pre-pro. How does it go over typically? Are people like,
in the pre-pro?
Gosh, I can't believe you said that he's not gonna, or
no, people respond well to it.
Yeah.
Very well. And the other one is I ask, this would probably be the best, and everybody knows this. Like, everything I'm saying is, to me, pretty obvious to your listeners. And you have to intuitively react. Like, some people are going to hate these things, and some people are going, oh, okay, I could do that. But I ask if we could have one voice in Video Village, that would be the best for the shoot.
So in other words, and I was going to ask you this, in terms of what you prefer for receiving a note, what is that, not chain of command, that's not the right phrase, but what is the process for what's the best process for delivering a note to you? My guess is, if I'm guessing, and this is what I try to do, is that somehow that team, from the agency or the client or whatever, sort of have a small huddle of their own, make a decision on a note or a couple of notes, and then somebody walks it over to you and gives it to you in the clearest sort of way, as opposed to 3 or 4 people coming to you at the craft table while you're trying to have some M&Ms or something.
Jicama. Trying to keep the weight down.
Jicama.
It's a root.
That sounds like also sounds like a way to test a microphone. Jicama.
Yeah. How do I get notes? Okay, so the traditional.
How do you prefer to get? If you if you could get your notes this way from now till forever, what would be the best way for you to get notes?
That's easy. I walk over to Video Village and say, I love take 3, take 4 and 5 were horrible. What can we do to make it better? I'm happy. What can we like? I like going to Video Village. I get my steps, and then I hear directly. But to your point, if everybody's throwing out the ideas, then it is my job to go, okay, we've heard a lot of great ideas. We don't have time to do everybody's.
Whose is it?
And by teeing that up at the pre-pro and saying someone is the decider, and it's great when usually the creative director's hand goes up and goes, I'll be the decider. And you love that, because now you have, like, okay, I'm going to you. You're the general. And I'm doing my thing on the battlefield. You're here. I can go to you, and she has already weeded out these other ideas. And
Yeah.
and sometimes the client, like I always remember this one. I came back after doing a take with a father and a daughter scene walking on the sidewalk, and we wanted to have, it was like a Gen Z daughter and a Gen X dad, and they were like having a playful discussion. And I have Gen Z daughters, and so I really could relate. And I was like, the daughter wouldn't really diss the dad. It's all love, right? It's acceptance. And she may be laughing with him, but not at him. And I came back after a handful of takes, and I go, that one was the winner. And the creative director said, I really liked how they connected, and she wasn't laughing at him. She was laughing with him. And the client dovetails that and goes, yeah, but maybe we should do another one because I felt she was kind of mocking him. So there's a stagnant pause, and you wonder, like, politically, what do I say? And I just went, okay, those are mutually exclusive interpretations of the same piece of film. Why don't we watch the playback so I can learn? This is me to the client, right? So I can learn what you saw, because I don't agree, but I don't want to like be rude or, the client's the one that we're making the stuff for. I clearly sided with the creative director, but it was easier just to watch the playback, and she saved face and was like, "Oh, I see what you mean, yeah."
And then
we were done.
And you were done.
Yeah. Then we did some more takes.
So as a note to, and tell me if you agree with this. So as a note to a creative director who's listening to this show, is be decisive.
Yes.
Once you've gathered the information and you've heard from all the parties, and if in fact you have been designated as the decider, be ready to be decisive, right? Because nothing is worse than wishy-washiness on a set, that's on a tight timeline. That's, you've got 10 more things to do, and you're like, I don't know. Are you okay when somebody says, okay, we'd like to try two slightly different things? Is that okay? Or is it's got to be one? I know that's kind of a silly question, because there's any number of possibilities, but just in theory, is that okay?
Yes, I'm the most accessible comedy director in my price range. So I build in time for alts. But I will say this. And I actually, I'll send you a link if you're interested. I wrote about comedy on a bell curve. Like, once you go past 7 alts, it doesn't get funnier. 4 or 5 is the sweet spot. And I think we owe it to ourselves, agency and director, to have alternate lines for the edit when it comes to comedy. Like, pharma, it's prescriptive, no pun intended. Right. You have to hit certain legalese, and they have to say certain things. But with comedy, I love it. But here's the caveat. If you want to try something just because you're thinking of it on the spot, like it'll be funny, does it fit the tone of the spot? Like, is it a viable option in the edit room?
Yeah.
And does it fit to time? Because sometimes a writer will have some, a sentence that is never going to fit.
Yeah.
Right? And so I usually say, yes, let's shoot. Those are great lines. I also believe that range is overrated, and you buy the talent that you saw at the callbacks. Like, if you get a range, like, let's get a range of performance. When the edit room, you're going to have to find the tone, the sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I feel that we saw that in the callback. Secret tip for directors: I get the little MP4 video, little QuickTime videos of the winners that we cast, and I put them on my phone, and I'll show the actor going, hey, you probably had 12 auditions since you booked this part. This is how you said peanut butter. Like, this
That's
is
great.
The character. You did like 4 versions, because the time to play is in the callback.
Yeah.
And I love in the callback when the writer or the art director has like an idea of, hey, maybe we should try this and experiment, play, exploit the time with the actor because the actors love it because they're acting. The director gets to direct. There doesn't need to be a camera there. Like, that's fucking fun. And then we hone it down and kind of go into the shoot with a more of a scalpel. And that in turn allows for, yes, we have time to do alt lines. Like
Now,
and can I add one thing?
sure.
If you do the alt lines, and again, this is more comedy centric. If you do your alt lines in a medium shot, then it's interchangeable as opposed to let's do it in the wide shot and the coverage and the me, because now you've just tripled the amount of shots we have to do.
Right.
With the 7 alts.
Right.
But if you limit it, like you go in, and this is all in prep, agency director talking like, hey, I had an idea. Hey, what are you guys thinking about the script? If we can do your alt lines in frame 7, the medium close up, we can just rattle them off.
Right.
And then in the edit, you pick a winner.
That's great.
Yeah, that's gold right there. That's podcast gold.
So it really is. I need to maybe highlight that one. So your note is a really good one, right? Because to your point, these actors may have done, they may be coming from an audition. Do you do the same thing back to the agency and the client to reset their mind and remember what they fell in love with, so that they don't go, let's try, do you do that as well or no?
I've never shown the agency or client those videos, but they were usually in the room or on the Zoom when we chose them. That's a great idea. I might start doing that.
There you go. That one's on the house.
I still am tactile with, I print the storyboards and have them at the pre-pro, and I take notes. Like I remember a client saying, we love the cast and the husband and wife are perfect, but we don't want the wife to come off like a shrew browbeating her husband. I think the word was bitch, right? And I wrote that I write those notes on my storyboards.
Right.
And then sidebar, how many clients listen? Do we know?
I don't know. I
sidebar with the agency going, are you guys cool? I work for the agency. Do you mind if she gets a little bitchy? And they're like, no, it's funny when she's bitchy. Like I go, okay. So then on set, we do it. And then I'll do one more take and go, this time, be really nice and accepting and make sure that you're a team, husband and wife.
Yeah.
And then that last one, go back to the village and say, wow, we got some great takes. That last one, she was really, I remember you didn't want her to be a shrew. And that last one, circle that. And then by the time the edit goes, they forget their note. And the agency gets the one they wanted.
Right. That's good. Sneaky. I like it. All right. So what else you got? What else? Keep them coming.
Okay. So, the QR code made a resurgence during the pandemic.
Yeah, you know what? Just a real quick sidebar. The QR code, it took. I mean, I remember using QR codes like, I don't know, 12 years ago at this activation thing that we did for our client at a TED event, like the big TED event, right? And we had built in these QR codes, and we thought people are going to love these things, and we had done them in this way where people could learn about each of the speakers. I can't remember. Nobody used it. It took so long for the QR code to finally come into its own. Whoever the QR code guy is who invented it is probably finally feels vindicated. But yes, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say that was the one thing that stuck during the pandemic, and the other thing is, telecommunicate video conferencing, Zoom.
Yeah.
Boy, the Skype people dropped the ball.
Yes, they did.
They were number one, and then never heard of them.
They owned it, yeah.
So my tip would be to, and this is to directors and agency creatives, and specifically the creative director listening, make time for like a 7-minute check-in during prep. And I ask for it now. Like, I'm prepping a gig and we just hung up like that kickoff call. And I know that the agency team is super busy. You have multiple projects. You got a life, you got a kid. But if you could give me 7 minutes, I feel that this face-to-face is a little more direct and efficient than I make an email, send it to the producer sends it to the agency producer sends it to the creative team, they wait and get in front of their creative director and get feedback, and then the reverse happens. Because not just the telephone game or the email chain, but just time.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, hey, here's an example. We were going into casting, and the agency, this may be another note, it's not an all back. Don't pick everyone to come to the callback.
Yeah.
And typically the agency list of callbacks is double digits, deep in the double digits. Mine is usually 4 or 5 people for each role at the most.
Yeah.
Because, this is what I do, and I hopefully had a take that got me the gig.
Right.
So rather than send an email that says, you guys picked too many people, I would rather get on a Zoom for 7 minutes and go, tell me what you liked about Jaime, because I didn't pick him. I want to learn. And I just think it bonds us creatively. Like, we get literally on the same page about the casting before the callback. 7 minutes is all I need.
Absolutely. And I actually employ this in sort of my creative process, right? Because I try to follow this sort of agile approach, right? The way software developers develop software. Hold on, let me let my dog out before he goes nuts here.
He's been very patient. While Jaime is letting out the dog, I'm going to read from you page 70 from his book, What's the Big Idea? Principle 3, use games and props to make ideation more fun and fruitful.
That's a good one.
Back.
I like that.
Yeah.
We're back. I was saying, yes, the agile approach, right? And one of the key tenets of the agile approach is to, if something can be solved with a conversation is always better than an email or a text. Pick up the phone, and because if not, think about just like you described. I'm repeating what you're saying, but you're going to send an email. Then that email is going to get read and then maybe somehow translated and sent to somebody else. Meanwhile, this whole time you're waiting, right? So it's going to probably add a day. Conservatively speaking, it's going to add a day of not knowing who is going to make it to the final callback or whatever the challengers or the question is. It's going to add a day at the very minimum. Pick up the fucking phone and just have a conversation, right?
Amen.
That's how you move quickly. And I'd love to spend some time talking about this, but and the world changed, right, a couple of years ago, and it's never going back. Everybody is going to want things even faster, cheaper, more efficiently, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of stuff, I think the endless chains of emails, that's gotta go away.
Amen. The fun thing about talking, like, specifically with casting even before the callbacks, is if I learned why you liked Sally and I didn't pick Sally, I may see character with through a new lens. Like, oh, okay. Now let's bring Sally back. You've won me over in this 7 minutes. Or when Caroline comes in for the callback, I can pepper in a little Sally. Right? Like, I'm now better informed of what you want out of the spot, and it serves the tone that I pitched, that got the gig, and we're all aligned. And that makes the day go faster because, as I said, range is somewhat overrated. you want the actor to bring to set what she did in the callback. They come in doing something totally different. It might be fun, like, oh, that's different. That's a surprise. And those happy accidents we all love. But 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, let me get you on the right path.
So clients, earmuffs again. Now, that sounds like a very, very thoughtful client and or agency person who has thought through all those details. And how often is it that they're just scared and they're sort of clutching their pearls and like, I don't know who's your pick. So instead of being decisive and making 4 picks, let's invite 15 of them back. You know what I mean? How much is it of real sort of, oh, I saw this here and I saw that, as opposed to just like, I can't make a decision. Well, let's see, everybody.
Typically the agency is very decisive. I suggest, here's a good one, but I'm sure everybody does this. Before you even send picks to the client, take a walk after the callbacks and review the session. They've recorded the selects, everybody. So watch your selects, because ultimately they have to play back on a TV or a phone or a computer anyway. So even though you laughed in the room or you love what they did live, how did it play 2 or 3 hours later at the end of the day? And that usually weeds out people. Like, I'm always surprised that someone I thought who was like, this is my favorite person for this role, was like, when I watched it back, go, God, not as funny. Didn't ferment as well. And I've had account people weigh in with, ooh, he looks like the client's ex-husband. And I'm like, oh, hey, that's out of my realm right there.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. And then there's also, would you say there's also, and I'm sure there's a name for it, right? But if you're watching, let's say that you're watching the audition in person, there's something that happens once you sort of overlay a lens on it, right? And it kind of transcends, and it's now in some other world. And sometimes that world doesn't, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah. What is that? What do you call that?
I don't know. Like, some people are funny in the room. I advise actors, don't come in and be really funny when you first walk in the room if you can't make the material just as funny. So some of them come in like, hey, how's everybody doing? Ba ba ba, ba ba ba, and then they do the material and they're a terrible actor, and we our hearts are we're crestfallen.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that now we're venturing into tips for actors. What is there? Are there any other any last sort of best practices for our agency and client folks, even in terms of working with the director on set?
Your smartphone has a stopwatch. Time out the script. Time it out. And I just read this on, somebody had posted on LinkedIn. I think they were from Mischief, right? Having a great run with some fun stuff about write out your montages. Because when it says we see a montage going through town, I'm like, well, that could be budgetarily, what is that? But story wise, what are the essence of each? What is the morsel that communicates montage?
Right.
And so if you don't write out the montage, how do you time the script? Even if you just have 2 people at a restaurant, time out the dialogue and leave a fucking beat for the waiter to react, or I'm having what she's having. Like, build in time for us to let your dialogue breathe.
Right.
Speed round. Here's another one. Writers. Improv is overrated. I love improv actors. I've worked with Catherine Hahn, Keegan Michael Key, Kevin Hart, Pat Finn is like from Second City. They improv. But sometimes the improv is like an 8-second riff.
Right.
And then how's that going to fit into 24 seconds with a burger shot and a logo? It won't. So we're cracking up on set. Another tip. If it cracks you up on set, that doesn't mean it's funny in the edit room.
Right.
It might have been funny because it was different. But back to this improv is overrated. Save the improv for that medium close up and let them riff, and maybe you pluck one out if it's short. But I say it to the writers and the creative directors because your script is what sold. Your script was crafted. I remember I said something on a call where I go, that one line in the scene with the mailman, that isn't really, it's neither funny nor is it a product feature. Like, I don't even understand that line. And they said, well, that's strategy. And I was like, okay, I'll stay in my lane because the strategy should be in the script. Right? The directors probably don't know that as well as you people do. When I say you people, I mean the agency people. So respect that from the director's point of view, but also if we have them improv, it's not going to be on point with the messaging 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
They ad-lib something about a donkey, but now, so what gives?
So in terms of it seems like you would benefit from having some kind of, and I'm sure this does happen, but maybe it needs to be a little bit more pronounced. You would probably benefit from some sort of really deep reading of the script in advance, where you might have gotten that note ahead of time, like, oh, this line is really the underlying strategy message, as opposed to, because it sounds like in that particular case, were you getting that note on set?
It was when I was pitching.
Oh, I see.
So by the time we got to set, that was my favorite line, favorite scene.
Okay. Right. So you did get that. Yeah. You did get that information. Okay.
But I think sure if that the onus is on the director to ask questions about the script. So a tip for creative directors is to make sure on that first call you set up the proper context, which most people do. Like when I started back in the olden days, fax machines and Zune players and things like that, you got a script that typically was just a bunch of words. You did a conference call on a speakerphone. You wondered if anybody was laughing. Sometimes you'd hear, "We're nodding in agreement on this end, George." Yeah. You're like, so polite, thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, creative directors, please turn your camera on at least to say hello during the pitch. That breeds confidence for us. Although now there's AI software that can make it look like your eyeballs are looking.
I know. I saw that. That's so weird. That is so weird. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's just the universal tip. If somebody is pitching you something, they're putting their heart and soul in. Turn on your fucking camera.
Please.
It's not that hard.
At least at the beginning or for a wave at the end. But now the decks that I'm just blown away by, the agency decks that go out to directors. They don't need, this is a practical tip, because I'm old school and I print everything so I can scribble my thoughts. Like in my book, it would say print, scribble, draw. So you're real-time vomiting creativity as you're reading this script for the first time. So no more black cover page with white text, because when I print it, it's all my ink and it's all wet and I forget I can skip that page.
It looks so sexy.
It looks cool. It looks sexy in the PDF. Yeah. But giving the director context. Here's a great one if I can use your platform for this.
Yes. I love that you're getting fired. I feel like I think we're going to go on, like we're going to go another 30. We got
cut me off.
You're just getting No. I'm loving this. You're getting fired up. I love it.
Okay. So directing commercials is not brain surgery. It's fun. I think it takes both art and craft, and I love what I do. And I love every opportunity. But the diversity, equality, and inclusion, I see more lip service than I see jobs. So I love when agencies they want to bid, let's say, a black director. We want a black director. Make sure you give us a female director to bid. Or there was a thing called Free the Bid where we'll add a fourth director that's a woman. Now, I'm biased because I'm married to a female Latina director.
Yeah.
So I've kind of lived tangentially in this world. I say pick a product, and it doesn't have to be a product marketed towards African Americans, towards black people, and it could be any product, and say, we're going to hire a black director. Like, all 3 directors that you bid are black directors. That way a black director will get the job. Now, this may be strange if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes. Jordan Brady is the poster child of white privilege. Why would I be saying this? It knocks me out of the running. I don't believe this is a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Rising tides lift all ships.
Absolutely.
It's been too easy for white directors, and it's still white male directors. Look at the Oscars, right? It's easier for white male, predominantly straight filmmakers to get gigs. And I see from an agency point of view that the white male director probably has the spot on his reel. But since it's not brain surgery, and that director that you're bidding, if they probably have just as much game and they have a great reel. If they don't, I say take a chance. They're going to be surrounded by a production company. Right. I have a production company. I'll produce for any director someone wants to hire that has been vetted by the agency, and I'll surround them with their own crew, my crew. We'll make sure they follow the protocol. Like, we have to give people from underrepresented populations an at-bat with a wage, with getting paid to do it. They don't need to I have a shadow on every set, right? But I give them a stipend, but that's really just so they're insured. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's just better legally.
Yeah.
So that's my rant on diversity is just commit to hiring. We do it in casting all the time.
Yeah.
The doctor is going to be a black woman in her 40s. Great. And then we go cast that. So I'm not saying you have to be that prescriptive with the director, but say, you know what? For this Folgers commercial, do they make Folgers? I'm really dating myself.
Yeah, I think they do.
For this Folgers commercial, we need a black director. Why? Because we want to help diversity, not because they're going to to say that any one director that is of a certain race represents all black voices or Asian voices. Like, no race is a monolith, right? So hire them for their taste and their tone and their skill. And there, I've gone on and on about that.
No, I like it. And so if we take away one thing from that is just do it. Just stop talking about it and sort of do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, I like it. All right, what else? What else? This is an important question, by the way. If you don't know this technique, the what else technique, because if I keep asking what else, you're going to get to one. You're going to be like, I don't know, it's a thing. I read about it in the Coaching Habit. It's called AWE. And what else?
Well, don't overlook a director when you're hiring them because they don't have the exact spot on the reel. Like, you may get something else special from the director who hasn't done your spot before.
Right.
And I don't know that that's an agency thing. In fact, I've talked to agency friends who are like, yeah, we hate when sales reps from production companies send us the director who's done our spot. To me, there's somewhat of an insult in that. Like,
right.
Oh, by the way, he's already done an ostrich at the airport. Yeah. Okay. And just
he's got a lot of, this is our number one ostrich expert director. Yeah.
And I get it. Like, oh, he's handled an ostrich. But, maybe someone's worked with a different flightless land bird. And don't. And I think this is probably, as I say it, it's more on the reps and the production companies than the receiving end of the agency. But I don't care if the setting is an office. We've all shot in an office. It's the tone of the humor. So I would rather show you a spot that has the tone that you're looking for, or you like my comedic point of view that I've been trying to hone in on for years, more than the fact that I've shot in an office. Because I'm going to get a production designer, the DP shot in an office. We've all I've shot on a fake airplane many times. Just because your script is in a fake airplane, is in an airplane, what if it's a drama? You're going to get
Right.
Comedy Boy that did the funny spot on the airplane?
So, this has been kind of like a short, master class. I know that I want to talk a little bit about your commercial film training company. Tell us a little bit about that.
Commercial Directing Film School. And thank you, Jaime. CommercialDirectingFilmSchool.com. It's been so fun for me because, when I started, there were people that were very nice, letting a comedian game show host direct some things. And a lot of people helped, like, don't stand in the key light. Hey, you're talking over the actors. Hey, you can't do this. And then there were assholes who just wanted me to fail.
Yeah.
And that's a part of life. And I vowed never to be that person. So I started doing workshops like 3 or 4 times a year. And then when the pandemic hit, I put it online. And now I do both. I have a big retreat coming in September of 2023. It'll be our second one, where my wife and I ran a retreat. And she just had her first film come out last summer called A Diamond in the Rough. Mean Girls meets Happy Gilmore. And she's a wonderfully talented woman. And we just went to Joshua Tree with 20 filmmakers, and we had every meal together if you wanted. We took hikes. We talked. I had a curriculum. I did a case study of like the life cycle of a commercial from a director's point of view, like from the email that they want to do a call, to the brief, to the treatment, to the changes, to the callbacks, snippets of the Zoom. And, everybody knows, the agency knows that I share this.
Sure.
To the final spots being on air, to the post and ad critic. And it's a wonderful, that's not the only curriculum, but it's called Define Your Voice. And it's just, the big trick about teaching, and I hope you get this from everything you're doing here, is you talk to people, and I learn more
Absolutely
than the students. And I have a filmmaker, young guy, who's been just self-taught, clawing his way through like social things, social shoots, lower budget, and I'm like, how do you pull that off? Oh, well, we have this, we have that, and I'm just like taking all these mental notes. This is great because we have to adapt.
Absolutely. If you don't adapt, then you'll be extinct soon. So how do how many students do you take? Is it like per quarter, or like how many students do you take on? Asking for a friend.
Yeah, 15 filmmakers for commercial directing boot camp, one day deep dive in LA. The next one's August 22nd, but it's sold out. I'm not doing it over the summer because I'm going to prep for this second annual retreat. That's 20 filmmakers. It's like literally someone signed up over the weekend. I think there's like 12 spots left. It'll sell out. It sold out last time. And some of those people did the boot camp. And then the master class is online. And I have a shadow class online where my son, Ben, is a director DP. He literally was over my shoulder talking to the crew at the camera, talking with the actors, and going over to Video Village. And then he as a DP, he's actually shot on the master classes, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and all kinds of professionals, experts in their field. So he came to my little studio and he lit it like a master class, and I talked to the camera. And by the way, those are great. The Jeff Goodby's masterclass
Yeah.
is wonderful. Ron Howard has a filmmaking masterclass. Not that that's the real masterclass. Mine is master class, so I don't get sued.
Yes. Not no TM. No TM and a dash. And you spell class with a K or something.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm just trying to understand how you're so prolific. So you've got all that stuff going on. And then you've got the podcast. Tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Oh, thank you. My podcast is called Respect the Process. It's we're approaching our 10-year anniversary. We launched in September of 2013. And it's creative directors like yourself. You're going to be on.
Yeah.
We're going to record yours in a couple days.
Yes, that's right.
And this may come out before. I don't know.
I'm going to try to get this out. Yeah, I'm going to try to get this out quickly. Yeah.
It's hard to stay consistent, but directors and then crew members like technicians, sound mixer, key grip, just to keep, variety. And the occasional indie filmmaker or vendor, somebody had an invention. This DP friend had an invention that you put on between the tripod, between the Steadicam and the camera to make Steadicam less steady, which I was like, that alone is an oxymoron, but I'm on the show, let's talk about it.
To give it a little bit more realistic feel or something? Is that what it was?
Yeah, to bring handheld to Steadicam.
Oh, okay. All right, I like it.
Why not just be handheld?
Well, because then that's too much, right?
Yeah.
All right. And then tell us about True Gentleman Industries, which is kind of would you say that's sort of the master brand? I mean, that's your production company, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a production company with some partners in the aughts. I've been signed to companies. I was with a wonderful EP, Lauren Schwartz from Kaboom, which has been around for a long time. But all the while, I've had True Gentleman Industries to service what I call house accounts, like people that I've been working with since 2005.
Yeah,
literally one of my clients, Toyota clients, and then I just got to the point where it's like, look, I can give this sounds like a sales pitch, right, for me, but I give each project full court press attention.
Yeah.
And like in the late 90s, early 2000s, especially the .com boom, going from job to job to job. And there are A-list directors that go job to job to job, and they have a whole team. So I'm trying to give more of a white glove service, like this thing I'm shooting in the 2 Sundays. I'm all in.
Yeah.
But the bandwidth of prepping a job, I still have a producer, and then once I get my key people hired, the DP, the production designer, and stylist, we all Zoom and do like our own kickoff call, and the agency's happy, and I got my check-ins. It's not 24 hours a day. And then I bulk the podcast interviews. Like I think I have 8 in the can.
Yeah.
My son, I Dropbox, my son Jake edits. He sends me back the file. I just need to drop in the intro. Helen has been doing my intro for 10 years. And so the podcast is sort of streamlined. I don't use a scheduling program like I should. I should use some AI assistant. And then the film school is it kind of runs itself because like 3 boot camps a year I've been doing that since 2015. So the curriculum changes all the time. It's updated, but there are the core tenets of like, and I do actually teach turn the monitor off, like we started talking about.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I didn't explain why. And my dear friend, a creative director, Dan Counselor in Detroit at Leo Burnett said, I love that you do that. But the first 2 days of shooting with you, I thought that is such a dick move. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you didn't really explain it. You just like, we're all looking around. And I was like, you're right. That was a total dick move. And I think I told you before we started, there was a guy on TikTok, a creative director that responded saying, yeah, I like my directors more collaborative. And my retort is, it's more collaborative to get the soup ready before you taste it, and then say, how do you
Absolutely.
want it? How do you want it? You want hot sauce? You want a little more
Yeah.
salt? Like, I make no mistake that the director is the dressmaker. And if you don't like these short sleeves because your arms are fat, we're going to put some sleeves on it. Like, I made 4 feature films with a few egotistical actors that were a chore to deal with. I won't name any names, but his initials were Billy Bob Thornton. And I got through that with a smile and a sense of humor. There's no client, there's no creative director, creative. There's nothing you can throw at me because I know the rules, right?
Yeah.
So I think the creative directors, there's a story I was thinking about, and then I'll shut up.
No. Keep going. I'm loving this.
I was doing Popeye's chicken commercial. This is like 20 years ago. And we changed something that I thought was insignificant, but instead of like white banners, we made black banners with white text. Like, we changed it, right?
Yeah.
There was no price tag for ink at that time. And right before we walked in the pre-pro, the creative director stopped and goes, "Hey, can I see, these are the designs you're going to pitch?" And I was with the copywriter and the art director. And the copywriter was Rob Riley, who's going on to be a mega king of advertising. By the way, Google him.
Right.
But the copywriter and the creative director stopped by and said, "Why did you change that?" And they said, "Oh, the agency explained it, and I said it would film better, it wouldn't reflect, and that it'd blow out on camera." And he goes, "I don't know if I agree with that, but okay." Went in the room 3 minutes later and towed the party line for his team. Right? Like, just, we think this is better. Here's why. The team put a lot of thought into this. And I was like, what just happened? 2 minutes ago, he didn't like it. And he expressed that. And they said, push back a little bit and go, "No, trust us." And he goes, "Okay." And then not only trusted them, but sold it like it was the thing saving the campaign.
Yeah, I think that's somebody who understands the big picture. And while he may have walked away still feeling a little bit uncertain, he knew it wasn't going to make or break the spot one way or the other. And he knew that if he got everybody comfortable, that you were going to be able to move on and you were going to be able to finish on time and everything's going to be fine. So I think that's a mark of, kind of a good leader that understand, that's looking at the bigger picture, right? And I think a lot of people, and I think it's a fear thing, a lot of people will hone in on stuff like that and, and won't let go and then cause all sorts of other problems. So you shared a pretty good one, I'd say a few seconds ago, in terms of a confession. And I forgot to prep you on this, but you listened to the show. Now is the time to share a confession, as the show's Confessions of a Creative Director.
Right.
I'm going to ask you to share something, a creative crime of some sort, a directorial crime, or just something you want to get off your chest.
That's a great question, and I've listened. I love the show, so I knew this was coming. I wanted to be spontaneous. While I think I'll encourage the viewers to go to Chapter 7, page 89 of What's the Big Idea? No assholes. I have a strict no assholes policy. I don't tolerate bullies, sexists, racists, liars, con artists. Enough said. Credit to Jim Ritter for this one. You gave credit in the book. That's one of my favorites, is the no asshole policy. I was like, what do I want to confess? I mean, I will confess that I have taken jobs, not many, but for the money, strictly for the money.
Yeah.
And didn't even get the commercial.
Yeah.
More when I was younger and starting out. Now, now the trick is to compartmentalize your brain and get excited about anything. Like there's got to be a reason to do a job. Is it for the real, the relationship, or the revenue? And it's the revenue is usually last because you can have a good money year, but your reel sucks. Or if you're an asshole, people aren't going to work with you again. So I tend to prioritize the real and the relationships, and usually the relationships. I mean, I had an agency that I worked with for decades ask me to do it. They go, it's not funny, but we know you'll be nice to the client. I go, bring it on. But I have done a couple where early on where it was just like clients yapping, agency changing their minds and this and that, and I'm just smiling going, I'm getting paid like from a small town in Ohio. I'm getting paid a lot of money. I'm going to make this the best damn commercial there is. I won't name the product, but their initials were AT&T. Which is still holding on to the telegraph in their name, which hasn't been used for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a last bonus tip.
All right.
Creatives.
Yeah.
Talk your clients out of needing a wide shot. And if you need the wide shot to establish things, and this is a filmmaker tip, don't start with the wide shot. And so if you have to do a wide shot, understand you don't need the entire dialogue in the wide shot. You're never going to use that morsel, especially if she's talking about the product, in the wide shot. The wide shot is gets the least amount of time on screen, but it takes the most fucking time to build and light and shoot. So often I'll be doing the wide shot and I don't do it first. And someone will go, can we do it again where she's like, and I'm like, we just need them to step on the front porch. Right? We just need them waving goodbye. You're never going to use that.
I think I'm a little embarrassed because I think I've been guilty of that, but I think in the past it's just been sort of like it's sort of like a way to it's like a comfort thing. But that's a great note. I'm always for if we know we're never going to use it, don't do it. So that is a good note.
And bonus. Don't say this. Can't we just turn the camera and ... Because, and then I go, it'll look terrible. We're not ready for that. No, we're never going to use it. The client just wants to know we have it. Well, dude, if we're going to shoot it, let's make it great.
Oh yeah, I like that. The old, I know we're never going to use it, but just be good to have.
It'd be great to have.
Have you ever now I'm going to force some confessions on you. Have you ever done like, okay, yeah, sure, and then just like did it and then not actually rolled?
Oh wow, no, but now you're what else works?
Yeah,
I did. I have in the digital age deleted a take off the camera because it was perfect. The performance was perfect. And it was slightly out of focus. And one time I had an editor who chose a take that was slightly soft. And, the editor's looking on a monitor, not the flat screen at the bar that's really big.
Right.
And I've gotten to a little, civilized but heated discussion about, well, no, it's binary. It's either sharp or it's not. So the script notes say, NG, no good. And then in big letters, it says out of focus, soft.
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to even use that. But the performance is so good. Well, yes, of course, I'm deft at my comedy directing.
Yes.
So after that, I deleted I had them deleted off the camera, like hit the button that deleted the file. And the digital imaging technician who processes the film said, you're really disrespecting the process. It may throw off all the numbers and everything when they go to transfer and to color. And I was like, I know, but it was such a good take. We'll do it again. And I did a second take in focus before I deleted.
Yeah.
So I kind of forced the hand in the edit.
All right. Well, that was a pretty good. That might get bumped up to the confession a
Ooh,
little bit.
ooh.
Well, Jordan, this has been everything that I hope for and so much more. Thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom. I think that it will be super helpful, especially for young creatives that are coming up that are maybe just starting to get into this world. And, maybe they will come into a set much better prepared to understand sort of the best practices and how to get really at the end of the day all this stuff is just going to make the product better.
Oh yeah, God bless the agency. Well, when directors write their spec spots, I'm like, do you get paid to create campaigns and write scripts, or the director puts the product shot against a cinder block wall, and I go, what art director would allow you to stage your product shot against a cinder block wall? Like the collaboration with agencies, and I'm sucking up just to leave a good impression here. But it all starts with a great script, with a great idea. And so we are the midwives that bring it to life. And I love it. That's why I love that there's a release date and funding for the movie, the little 30-second movie, as opposed to the studio has to find a place on the slate. My movie got greenlit. We have to find a star. Like, it's backwards. The directors retrofit into the premiere of the commercial.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you
it's
for
true.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on here, and thank you so much for the kind words about the book. And I'm really tickled that you're getting something out of it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, the book is called "What's the Big Idea?" An indispensable guide to becoming a kick-ass creative director. And Jaime, I want to say to my filmmaker friends tuning in, it gets you inside the mind of the creative director.
Yeah. I hope folks pick it up.
Yeah.
And where's I don't even know if I want to throw this out there, but because you have so much on your plate, but where's the book? Where's your book? That way we just talked about.
My book is called Commercial Directing Voodoo.
There is one. Okay,
yes.
See, I thought there wasn't one. Okay, I didn't know that.
Commercial Directing Voodoo is 20 plus years of filmmaking experience.
How did I miss that?
For $10. It's on Amazon. I read the audiobook. Did you read your audiobook?
I'm in the process of doing the final edit, so I'm hoping to get it out here pretty soon.
Oh, people love it on Audible.
Yeah.
But I have illustrations in my book.
That's awesome.
Well, it's awesome for me because I did them, but they're stick figures. Like they're like this. Like you make a guest appearance in my book, and I've had people actually go, "Did a child do those for you?"
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I missed that in my research. I'm gonna have to pick that up.
Oh no, it's a good lunchtime read.
All right. Well, I will pick that up, and let's just keep talking. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm looking forward to being on your show and just continuing our newfound friendship here.
Yes,
I think you're awesome, and I wish you continued success in everything that you do. And we'll keep chatting.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you later. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
And there you have it, folks, another episode of Confessions of a Creative Director in the books, thanks to my very special guest, Jordan Brady. That was some good information. I hope everybody took some notes so that you can be prepared for your next shoot, for your next content shoot or commercial shoot, whatever you're doing. I think all these do's and don'ts really apply to that. So thanks to Jordan for being on the show. Hey, if you haven't done so already, pick up my book, What's the Big Idea? An Indispensable Guide to Becoming a Kick-Ass Creative Director. I think on the next volume I'll have to include some of those great tips from Jordan in there. But pick this up. It's on Amazon. It's a thin book, but it's filled with lots of great information that will help you prepare for the role of creative director. Hey, folks, subscribe to the show. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, like it, leave us a review, tell your friends about it, and let's grow the audience for the coming year. I also want to thank our sponsor for today's show, Oh Hello Media. Check them out at ohhellomedia.com. Until next time, peace, love, and creativity. See ya.
Make the logo as big as you can, but make the logo bigger. Yeah. I don't wanna tell you how to do your job, but could you make the logo